So, okay, here's a situation you already know by heart. You ordered something online maybe a week ago. Nothing fancy, honestly. And ever since you've been checking that little tracking bar like it somehow owes you money. Out for delivery, 3 stops away, 1 stop away. You know exactly what's coming, right down to the color, because you're the one who put it in the cart and clicked buy. There's no mystery here at all. And then the box finally lands on your doorstep and you pick it up, and something in your chest does this tiny, kind of ridiculous little hop of excitement anyway. A spark over a thing you already own, that you already paid for, that you could honestly describe with your eyes closed. On paper, it makes no sense. It's a bit like watching a magic trick after the magician has already walked you through exactly how it's done, step by step, and then still going, wait, whoa, how? That little whoa is the whole thing we're pulling apart today. Because it turns out there's a genuinely good reason a box you completely understand can still light you up like that. And look, before you decide this is just a you thing, some private little glitch you should feel weird about, it really isn't. Last year alone, videos with the word unboxing in the title pulled in more than 25 billion views on YouTube. Billion with a B. That's millions of people sitting down on purpose to watch a total stranger open a box that isn't even theirs. Nobody watching is getting the object. They're there for the opening. So whatever this feeling is, it's honestly not some personal quirk. It's basically a species-wide hobby. And here's what's actually going on underneath it. That little spark isn't one thing. It's 4 separate mechanisms in your brain, all going off inside the same 10 seconds, and not a single one of them is really about the object inside the box. Once you can see all 4, you kind of can't unsee them. So let's start. Okay, so to get why the spark is so weird, we have to start with something that honestly shouldn't make sense. Back in the early 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz was recording from single brain cells in monkeys, just watching what their dopamine neurons did the moment the monkey got a little squirt of juice. And at first, the story was exactly what everyone expected. Juice shows up, dopamine fires, monkey's happy. Simple. But then Schultz did something clever. He added a light that flicked on a second or two before the juice arrived. Every single time, like a little heads up, and after the monkey learned the pattern, something strange happened. The dopamine stopped firing for the juice. It started firing for the light instead. The whole signal jumped backwards, off the reward, and onto the thing that predicted the reward. He published this in the journal Science in 1997, and it quietly changed how we understand pleasure in the brain. Now here's the part that actually matters for your doorstep. Schultz also found that when a reward is fully expected, when the brain already knows precisely what's coming and when, those dopamine neurons basically don't bother. They just sit there at baseline. No spike, nothing. Surprise is what they're built to react to. And a fully predicted reward has no surprise left in it. So really think about what that means for a package where you already know the contents. Your brain filed that thing under known and boring days ago. By every rule Schultz discovered, it should honestly be the flattest, least exciting delivery of your whole week. And yet there's that spark, right on cue, which tells us the spark has to be coming from somewhere else entirely. So if the object itself isn't the source, then what is? This is where a psychologist named Kent Berridge comes in. And this is genuinely one of my favorite little pieces of psychology, so bear with me for a second. Berridge spent years pulling apart 2 things that feel like one thing: wanting something and liking it. In everyday life, they blur together completely. You want the pizza, you like the pizza. Same event, who's counting? But in the brain, they actually run on totally separate systems. And the twist, the part that trips absolutely everyone up, is that dopamine, the chemical the internet loves to call the pleasure molecule, mostly isn't doing the pleasure at all. It's doing the wanting, the craving, the reaching, the pull toward a thing. In his work with rats, going back decades now, Berridge found something that honestly sounds impossible. If you strip nearly all the dopamine out of a rat's brain, it still enjoys sweet tastes completely normally. The liking is totally intact. What vanishes is the wanting. The rat just won't cross the cage to go get the treat anymore, but drop it in its mouth and it's as delighted as ever. Wanting and liking pulled cleanly apart. So sit with what that means for the box on your porch. That spark you feel? It's a wanting signal, and wanting signals don't fire for the reward. They fire for the cue, the thing that predicts the reward, which in this case is the box itself. The cardboard, the tape, the weight of it landing in your hands. Not the object inside. A cardboard box is basically a birthday you scheduled for yourself and had delivered by a stranger in a van. It's the light from Schultz's experiment, sitting right there on your welcome mat. Your dopamine jumped onto it days ago. You can actually feel this exact split in your own life if you go looking for it. Just think about scrolling your phone late at night. The wanting is huge. Your thumb keeps pulling down for more. Refresh, refresh, one more. But the actual liking? Honestly, most of it is pretty thin. You barely enjoy half of what you scroll past. That gap, big wanting and small liking, is dopamine doing the wanting with hardly any liking attached. It's the very same split, just aimed at a screen instead of a box. Now that's mechanism one, but there's a second thing running right beside it. And this one's all about novelty. Because even when you know what the object is, you have never actually held this specific one. It's new in the most literal, physical sense. Unscuffed, unopened, untouched. Yours for the very first time. And it turns out your brain treats new as a whole category of its own. Always worth a bit of attention. In 2006, two researchers, Nico Bunzik and Emre Duzel, ran a study looking at what actually switches on in the brain when people run into something genuinely novel. And they found that pure newness, not reward, not pleasure, just the plain fact of something being new, lights up the same little region deep in the midbrain that responds to real rewards. Their conclusion was kind of lovely, honestly. Novelty can act as its own reward. New all by itself registers as a tiny prize. And this is ancient wiring. This is the same system that made our ancestors wander over and poke at the unfamiliar thing instead of ignoring it. Because back then, new might mean food, new might mean danger. New was always worth a look. Nobody exactly sat that system down and explained that one day it would be aimed at a phone case in a bubble mailer. So when you peel that first layer off something factory fresh, part of what you're feeling is a really old exploration reflex lighting up and going, ooh, what's this, even though you know full well what this is. It just doesn't care that you know. It really likes new. Here's the thing, though. A lot of this spark doesn't even wait for the box to arrive. It kicks off days before, and that's mechanism 3. Just think honestly about the best part of ordering something you're excited about. For a lot of us, it isn't the moment it actually shows up. It's the in-between. The checking the tracking 12 times. The picturing it, the quiet little hum of something good is coming that trails you around for 2 or 3 days. Turns out that hum has a name. Back in 1987, an economist named George Lowenstein described what he called savoring, this idea that anticipation itself carries real value, that the waiting isn't just empty dead time you have to get through before the good part. For a lot of things, the waiting kind of is the good part, and he ran this one study I genuinely love. He asked people how much they'd pay for a kiss from a movie star they were crazy about, at different points in time, right now in 3 hours, in a day, in 3 days. And standard economics says obviously you'd want it immediately, because sooner is always better. But that's just not what people chose. On average, they were willing to pay more to get the kiss in 3 days than to get it that very second, because 3 days handed them something to savor. 3 days of anticipating it, replaying it in advance, letting it build. The delay actually did something for them that getting it instantly couldn't. So all that time your package spends crawling across a map on your phone screen, that inching little dot is doing real work. It's a savoring window, and your brain quietly milks it for every drop of pleasant anticipation it can get. This, by the way, is basically the entire secret engine behind pre-orders, and advent calendars, and Christmas Eve somehow feeling better than Christmas morning. And then there's mechanism 4, which is the reveal itself. The actual physical act of opening. And it turns out that matters way more than you'd guess, and it really isn't just theatrics. Back in 1992, a researcher named Daniel Howard ran 4 separate experiments on something wonderfully, weirdly specific: gift wrapping. And what he found is that simply wrapping an item, the paper, the small effort, the little ceremony of unwrapping it, put people in a measurably better mood. And that better mood then leaked straight into how they felt about the object itself. They rated the actual thing inside more favorably. Just because it arrived wrapped, the packaging wasn't neutral at all. It was quietly nudging their opinion of the contents before they'd even properly looked. Now, your battered cardboard box from some warehouse obviously isn't ribbon and a bow. But the mechanism underneath is honestly identical. The slicing of the tape, the flaps peeling back, that half second of reveal right before you actually see the thing, all of it is a tiny ceremony. And ceremonies genuinely shift your mood. So by the time you're finally looking at the object, you've already been tipped into a good mood by the opening, which means you're primed to like whatever you see. The box didn't just carry the thing to you. It ran a little happiness ritual on you first, then handed over the object at the exact moment you were most ready to enjoy it. which is either kind of sneaky or kind of beautiful, depending on your mood. Probably both. And this, by the way, is exactly why companies pour so much money into that one opening moment. They figured out, long before any of us did, that the box is doing real emotional work. That's why premium stuff comes nested in all that careful little packaging. The snug foam, the tab you pull, the lid that lifts just so slowly. None of that is really about protecting the item. It's about stretching the ceremony out, giving your mood a few extra seconds to climb before the actual reveal. You're not exactly being manipulated here. You're being gently choreographed, and honestly, it works. And here's the piece I find genuinely fascinating, the part that honestly keeps nagging at me. Every single one of these 4 mechanisms works even though you already know what's in the box. That's the strange bit. Knowing doesn't switch any of them off. Your rational brain can be standing there going, relax, it's a phone charger, you bought it. You already own 3. And your dopamine system just does not care. It's running on cues and novelty and anticipation and ritual. And none of those systems bother to check in with the part of you that knows better. They're older than that part. They're faster than that part. This is basically why you can fully understand this entire video mechanism cold and still feel the exact same spark tomorrow when the next box turns up. Understanding the trick was never going to disarm it. And honestly, I think that's kind of a relief, because it means the little joy isn't fragile. You can poke at it, explain it, take it completely apart on a whiteboard, and it just keeps working anyway. So let's snap the whole trick back together. Now that you can actually see all the gears turning, you order the thing. The wait kicks off a savoring window. Days of low-level anticipation your brain counts as its own small pleasure. The box arrives, and because it's the cue, your wanting system just floods in for the cardboard the exact way Schultz's monkeys lit up for that little light. It's also brand new, physically new, so your ancient novelty reflex throws in a bonus hit purely for the freshness of it. And then the opening, that small ceremony, tips you into a good mood right as the object finally appears. 4 mechanisms, none of them actually about the object, all going off inside the same 10 seconds. And this is where I want to gently push back on something, because the usual take on all of this is honestly a bit mean. The usual take goes, if the thrill dies that fast, you've clearly got a shopping problem. You're just chasing cheap dopamine. You should really learn to want less. And look, for some people, sometimes sure there's something to that. But for most of us, most of the time, that framing has the whole thing upside down. You were never actually thrilled about owning your 4th charging cable. Nobody on earth is. The spark was never supposed to come from the object in the first place. Opening a package isn't a broken little hit of consumerism. It's your brain doing 4 things it's genuinely excellent at, all pointed at a cardboard box. And the joy fading fast once the box is open? That's not a glitch either. The joy was just doing its actual job, the anticipation and the reveal. And the second that was finished, it clocked out, right on schedule, exactly the way it's built to. So here's what I'd actually do with all this. The next time a box shows up, and you feel that dumb little flicker of joy over something you fully already knew about, you honestly don't have to argue yourself out of it. You can just notice it. Notice that the spark actually landed a beat before you even saw the thing. That's the anticipation, right on time. Notice the little urge to peel the tape slowly instead of tearing straight in. That's the ceremony, and it's genuinely worth honoring. You're not being childish, and you're not being shallow. You're watching a magic trick you now know every single secret behind, and choosing to just let it get you anyway, which is, honestly, the most fun possible way to watch a magic trick. Knowing how it works doesn't kill it. It genuinely didn't for me. If anything, I open things a little more slowly now on purpose, just to stretch the good part out a bit. And if you want to wander further down this whole dopamine and wanting rabbit hole, because it really is one of the most interesting corners of psychology, I've dropped a couple of books on it down in the description. The wanting versus liking stuff especially. But mostly, if you caught your own brain doing any of those 4 things while you were watching just now, that's kind of the entire point. Tell me which one got you. Small habit, big psychology. I'll catch you in the next one.